TV. So let me go back to the topic. Let's hit this issue with Dave Ramsey. I had to go on that tangent because y'all know what it is. I got to tell you the truth. So Dave Ramsey made some remarks about the stimulus check, and I thought his remarks, for the most part, could have been okay, but there was a part where people were justifiably angry at him, and I'm gonna explain exactly why I agree with their anger, and I'm explaining exactly where Dave was partially correct, but he was right in the wrong way. So I'm reading from thehill.com. I actually said this quote was from Fox News. Actually, he was on Fox News. Thehill.com is where I read the story. So Dave Ramsey was talking about these stimulus checks. He said if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, you were pretty much screwed already. So Dave Ramsey, known for his financial advice, went on Fox News and criticized the idea of another round of stimulus checks for the country during the coronavirus pandemic. Quote, I don't believe in a stimulus check because if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, you were pretty much screwed already. You got other issues going on, Ramsey said in the interview. Now, let's pause right there. Here's where Dave Ramsey kind of disappoints me a little bit. The fact that Dave Ramsey's on Fox News almost sounding like he's lobbying against the idea of another stimulus check right there tells me that he might have been on a little bit of BS. You know, what difference does it make to you, Dave Ramsey, if people are going to get a check in the mail? You know, what difference? I mean, your worth. I don't know what Dave's net worth is. He's a smart guy, so he's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Ramsey's worth $100 million. I'm going to Google it right now. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done it. It says his net worth. $475 million. So he's halfway to being a billionaire. This is according to the first result that comes up in Google. So Dave Ramsey is worth almost $500 million. So the problem that you have, Dave, is that you are not in a position on any level to even begin to try to comprehend the experience and the pain of someone who might really be waiting on that $1,400 check. Somebody mentions here that Jordan says Dave has the nastiest attitude, and I've seen that, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't have a big problem with that all the time because I'm a believer in tough love. I think tough love. My daddy raised me on that, and my mother did too, and tough love is what made me a tough person. So I'm not against tough love, but what I am against is when someone who is out of touch tries to sort of overstep their boundary in a way that is not just insensitive, but could be defined as being off the mark. There's nothing, I mean, Dave Ramsey's at least a good 30, 40 years away from even knowing what it feels like to need a $1,400 check. Dave ain't needed money since Dave started becoming Dave Ramsey. And I think Dave Ramsey, I think it's great that he is who he is, but I'm trying to sort of figure out what was the agenda, what was in it for you to make you even feel like it was worth your time to go on the air and to basically say, like, I don't support stimulus checks. Why not just sit silently to the side and say, yeah, people, if you need $1,400 just to survive, then you in a world of trouble, right? You can sit on the sideline and say all that. Why are you jumping out front? And so there's an agenda here that's a little bit problematic to me, and I'd love for Dave Ramsey to explain that. And I would actually listen to him because I like Dave Ramsey, but I don't understand why he felt the need to go out and lobby against stimulus checks. And also, unfortunately, this sounds a lot like the typical Republican arguments that I've heard. Now, just so you know, if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican on this platform, there's a chance I'm going to make you uncomfortable because I'm not a fan of either party. And also, I'm Black first. I put my community first. I'm not trying to sit around here and figure out how I can be a good servant to the Democrats or a good slave to the Republicans. I am a servant to the Black community, and that is it, period. B1, hashtag B1, if you get what I'm saying. I'm not into that whole Democrat Republican stuff. So there's enough to pick at on both sides. So the thing about the Republicans is really fascinating. suburban schools, the black kids don't get as much for their schools as the white kids. We need to fix that. Well, the Republicans will come back and say, well, getting more money clearly won't solve the problem. I mean, there are plenty of schools out here that get plenty of money that still aren't educating any kids. So let's not give them the money. Difference. So let's just keep the money. And I would say, well, since giving them the money doesn't make any difference, let's give them the money and let's find out what happens. Let's try it. How about we try that? How about we go to that school that is severely underfunded and give them the money and then see what happens? Right. So a lot of times when somebody says, well, I'm just not going to give you the money because if you get the money, you're probably going to waste it. That is a problematic sort of argument. It's very elitist. It's very it's condescending. It reminds me of when I used to debate. I've been debating like hell for over 25 years that college athletes should be paid. I started this when I started writing articles for the campus paper when I was at University of Kentucky in the 1990s. That's how old I am. I probably sound like an old man to some of y'all, but it's okay. Being older is good because you get wiser and smarter. And when I started writing about this and I started saying, wait a minute, the school is going to make $20 million this year off of these black athletes. Maybe they should pay the athletes some of that money. Maybe they should pay their parents a little bit of the money. Maybe it doesn't make sense that you just got a $20 million check and your star player's mama is getting evicted from her crib in the projects. What kind of bigot are you, right? And what they would come back and say is they would say something like, well, you know how those athletes are. You give them some money, they're gonna go waste it anyway. They're gonna spend it on gold chains and rims and what. Okay, but it's their money. I don't care if they spend their money on pink unicorns and flying puppies. It's their money. Ain't nobody scrutinizing you, telling you what to do with your money. And so I think that when Dave Ramsey says, well, there's no reason to give people a $1,400 check because, I mean, my gosh, if you need a $1,400 check, then you're already financially screwed. Well, it's their check. And if they want to screw themselves with their check, then that's their right. Give them the check and let them do what they want to do. Give advice on what to do when you get the check, right? That's what Dave Ramsey's job is. His job is to give you advice on what to do when you get the check, not to decide whether you deserve it or not, because that is what we would call a normative statement. That is him saying, I don't really know if you are worthy or if you are intelligent enough, or if you are a good enough human being to deserve to receive a $1,400 check. And I think a lot of people are giving Dave the middle finger on this. And this is an area where I do get off the Dave Ramsey bus. I'm on the Dave Ramsey bus, by the way. I enjoy him. I want to make that clear. I enjoy watching his stuff. But this is where I get off the bus, where I kind of say, come on, man, who are you? Who are you to decide whether or not people deserve to receive a $1,400 check? Now, let's go deeper.